Shalom. There's going to come a day when we're simply going to have to make a choice. And it's going to be a simple choice. It's going to be a choice that has existed probably since the dawn of existence. It's a choice that you would think with current civilization and all the modernization we have, that choices like this were a thing of the past. But it would appear that once again we will have to make this choice. The choice I'm talking about is the choice between safety or freedom. Do you wish to be safe or do you wish to be free? Now here's the thing. All throughout history, slave masters, slavers have always touted that the biggest, greatest benefit their slaves get from their enslavement is protection. See, the slave masters have always held tightly to the notion. And they would continually tell the slaves that the world was too dangerous for them, that they needed to stay underneath their care, that without them, they would have died a long time ago. See, this is the creed of the slave master. This is how they ease their own consciousness. They convince themselves that they are doing right by their slaves by convincing the slaves that they are safe. It would appear that we are heading towards the moment in time where we'll have to make that decision. Do we wish to live in safety, away from a threat that we cannot see, away from a threat that may quite possibly not even exist? Or are we willing to take our chances and maintain freedom? See, the powers that be are weaving an interesting tale, but it is an old tale with an old storyline. They are weaving a tale that only in them can you be saved from the virus that's going around. Only by listening to them can you spare yourself, your family, your loved ones suffering. Only through them can you ever hope to one day eradicate the virus. But there's a catch, because as we know, nothing on this planet and in this life is free. There will be things that they will ask of us, things that they will say that need to be done or need to be sacrificed in order to receive their protection. We're seeing the beginnings of it now. And as of right now, the beginning manifestations of it are kind of in the gray. You can see both sides of the equation. You can see both sides of the argument. You can see how some people would say that everyone should obey the quarantines. Then you can also see how people on the other side would say that these quarantines are an infringement on basic freedoms. The side that's for the quarantines believe that the virus must be contained via the sacrifice of basic liberties. Well, the side that is against the quarantine have various reasons for not wanting to play along. Some of them just don't care, while others, question the timing of this virus. Some of us question, how is it that this virus comes along and allows certain moves to be made that have always been desired to be made by certain people in positions of power and authority? How is it that a gift like that would come along and empower certain initiatives? Those are all good questions. And they require, in order for a person to believe that those are questions that shouldn't be asked, it requires you swallow a very, very large dose of coincidence. I imagine what we're going to see in the coming weeks and months is the grayness of these edicts by our political leaders become a bit more black and white. It's not going to be gray anymore. It's going to become a lot more black and white. Especially when their demands start to be preceded with a word that, if you ask me, tells you all you really need to know about what's going on here. And that word is mandatory. Mandatory this, mandatory that. See, it's one thing when it's mandatory curfews. It's one thing when it's mandatory quarantine. See, these don't violate your personal being. These don't violate your body. These don't violate your property. But when it becomes mandatory vaccination, when it becomes mandatory confiscation of something, that's when violation begins. I can almost see the narrative that they're trying to create here. See, right now, there's a whole lot of back and forth and bickering going on the news networks about testing, the lack of testing, the uneven distribution of testing. Why are the celebrities being tested more so than the common people. See, these are all theatrics that they put out there to make this thing, to make testing, simple testing for the virus, appear to be an issue. They claim that there's scandals going on with the testing that's preventing it from being as widespread as it should be. They claim that the government is dragging its feet on the testing. They claim that there's bias with the testing. This is all designed to get the common people to want to be tested, to make you feel like you've won a victory when they finally roll out the testing for you and your family. But what could be really going on with this testing? Are they really testing for the virus? Are the results that you would get back with those tests truly adequate, accurate? Are they telling the truth? See, the process it will go through, they may not claim that you have to mandatorily get vaccinated initially. No, they'll just say mandatory testing. And the only time a mandatory vaccination is imposed on you is if you come up positive on the test. Now, you might think that this would be something to pretty easily sidestep. But there's another catch. And again, like I said in my last video, repetition is how you catch these. Is how you catch their methods. Is how you understand what they're trying to do. So another thing that they're continually repeating is asymptomatic. Asymptomatic. See, that is a very general door to open. Because when you say asymptomatic, you're talking about a person who, by all accounts, is perfectly healthy. There is no symptom. They have no symptom of anything. They are asymptomatic. But according to a test, they have something. You see? So they're floating that word out there constantly. Asymptomatic carriers. Asymptomatic carriers. This is a theme that they're continually floating out there. And the purpose of it is to convince you that even if you don't feel bad, you could still have the virus. And thus, when you take your test and you come back positive, you won't be flabbergasted. You won't be dumbstruck by the result because, hey, you were just an asymptomatic carrier. That's the reason why your test came back positive, yet still you feel perfectly fine. See the game they setting up here, people? All they have to do is claim that the testing will be mandatory. Not the shot, not the vaccine, just the test. Just a quick swab up your nose. Then they do the test and then they turn around and say, you got it. And when you try to dispute it by saying you feel fine, they say you're just asymptomatic. And now, since you have it, according to their test, now you must mandatorily get the shot. See, they already see people looking at them in terms of a mandatory vaccination. They already see that. They already see the resistance to that. So they think they're going to, so their idea is to come with mandatory testing. And they'll have their pundits and their media personalities try to reassure the public, yeah, it's mandatory testing, but hey, if you don't have the virus, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything. So that's how they'll try to reassure people. But it goes back to what I started this video talking about. The choice you have to make. Will you live free? Will you live free by the graces of the Most High Yah? Or will you live underneath the supposed safety of man? Because that's what this is all about. This is about where you are truly willing to put your faith. Are you going to put your faith in man and go by whatever their tests tell you? Or are you going to put your faith in Yah, the Most High? This is the question that's going to start to be posed again. This is the question. It's an old question. But it's being brought back to the forefront again, just like in the days of Noah. See, the slave masters know all they have to offer you is illusions. No one in their right mind wants to be a slave. So what the slave master has to do is try to convince you that you are better off being their slave. And the way they've always chose to do that is through the notion of safety. And so that's what we're seeing again. If you wish to be safe from the virus, you will condone and do everything your slave masters tell you to do. If you wish to live freely by the graces of the Most High Yah, you quite simply will tell them, no way. It's just that simple. There ain't going to be any riding the fence because they are creating a scenario here where riding the fence will be impossible. It's one way or the other. And you also hear him talking a lot about coming together. That's another phrase that they're continually repeating. That we all need to use our part. We all need to do our part. We all need to come together and fight this. See, I have my suspicions about these celebrities that we're constantly seeing, supposedly are now infected with the virus. A lot of sports athletes black sports athletes are supposedly infected with the virus. I just have a feeling like if that is not real, if this is all part of the theatrics, what is the purpose? To continually show us and tell us about all these celebrities that are supposedly infected with the virus. Well, one thing I can think of is to make it truly resonate with us, particularly us. To get us to pay attention. To get us to stand up and take notice. To get us to doubt our suspicions. Celebrities for a long time have been used to sell agendas to us. There really is no reason to believe that now would be any different. Shalom.